Good morning. Good morning. Hey, it's Mike Stewart with Mike Stewart Live. So glad to be here. Hopefully, you're getting in your seats right now. And boy, have I got a fun, exciting show today that I believe you're going to have a lot of fun with. And you're going to maybe learn a few things about audio and video marketing. That's the whole purpose of this show is to talk about audio and video marketing. And I'm having a lot of my good friends and colleagues that make money from audio and video marketing. They're marketing their audio services and techniques. And so you'll learn some things. But, I always hang behind me. You can see right back there, Pac-Man Fever and my gold record. I'm really, really proud of having been a part of that project from over 40 years ago. And I was involved with that project with two dear, dear friends, Jerry Buckner and Gary Garcia of Pac-Man Fever. And the day I got that gold record, made the newspaper 40 years later. You can see there is the picture that was in the paper back in May of 2020, the day I got that gold record. That was the gold record party that I attended. There you can see a 25-year-old Mike Stewart, and there's our friend Edgel Groves, but there's Jerry in the middle. And then, of course, there's Gary, who we love Gary, but we lost him a few years ago. But Jerry's still kicking around and having fun with us. And of course, Jerry and I have got to do a lot of things together over the years. We've been to Pac-Man conventions. There we were in Florida together at a Pac-Man video games event. And then, of course, some of the projects that we did together is we worked on Wreck-It Ralph back in 2012. In fact, I highly recommend you go check out the Netflix show High Score. Jerry and Pac-Man Fever are in that Netflix show. And then, of course, one of the other things that Jerry and I worked on together was we did the WKRP in Cincinnati record together. So we have a huge music connection over the years. And of course, one of our crazy claims to fame is we were involved for many, many years. Jerry, and then Gary, in fact, was involved. But Jerry and me and my partner in my studio, Danny Jones, we did Waffle House records. And back last, I think it was fall of 2019, before the pandemic, we got one of the few people in the world to receive Waffle House Toonie Awards. So let me play you some of mine and Jerry's work that got us the award. You'll enjoy this little clip here.
Joining me now are three of the pioneers of Waffle House Records: Mike Stewart, Danny Jones, and Jerry Buckner.
We're so glad to be here.
We're happy to have you guys. Now, Jerry, you had a hit, Pac-Man Fever, so you're no stranger to having a hit. Talk about the early days of Waffle House Records.
Well, Waffle House Records decided to form a record label, and they called me and asked me if I would like to be a part of that and help them do it. And I said yes, so we started on that project, and 25 some records later, here we are.
We have an award for you for the Waffle House most played songs. I would like to present to you a Toonie 2019. Go ahead, give a round of applause.
I'm hungry. I'm getting hungry for waffle.
You're hungry? I'll take that for you, because we're gonna make them work a little bit. Would you guys like to hear a little bit of Raisins on the Toast? All right, you guys, go ahead, get the sing-along and get everybody started, okay?
Raisin toast, raisin toast, raisin toast. There are raisins in my toast. Raisin toast. Raisin toast.
So there's a little bit of mine and Jerry's history to give a little flavor, and there's a whole lot more to come. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring to the virtual stage my good friend, longtime friend, Mr. Pac-Man Fever, Jerry Buckner.
Seeing that video, I just brings me to tears, Mike. You know, Pac-Man Fever, what sell millions of records around the world and on American Bandstand, all these big shows, and then we do Raisin Toast and get awards for that, and we're in the Waffle House video. So I'm kidding. I love Waffle House. They've been great, but it's interesting. I mean, the truth is, Mike, and why would I lie? People seem to be sometimes more impressed with the Waffle House stuff that you and I did than anything else. I mean, we've done so many projects together. I mean, we've been on a bunch of different labels, as you can see in the back there. A lot of hits and everything. But Waffle House has been great for what it was, and enjoyed it, and we've done a lot of stuff together with that.
Well, Jerry, in my audio and video marketing world, you'd be surprised how many people will see these videos like on YouTube, Facebook, and in social media and whatnot, or even when I was doing websites where I would be selling a training or something. And I'm true. I mean, when I showed that newspaper picture that the day I was standing there with you and Gary, that was the gold record party. And, you guys, I got that gold record for working on that album, and that has been a proud possession of mine for years. And you'd be surprised how many I've made more money by people saying, "Do you really have a gold record?" And I say, "Yes." And there's the man. You're seeing him. You're hearing him right now. That they had a very, very successful album in the '80s, the Pac-Man Fever album, and you guys saw to it that I had a gold record, and I've hung it proudly on my wall. And I found out from an internet marketing strategy that when you hang credibility awards in your videos online, it creates a credibility. I mean, I've made money. It was like, well, I'll do business with you because you have a gold record. And it's like, it has nothing to do with my business, but it gives you a certain amount of credibility. And so I'm very grateful that it's real. It's not something I bought on eBay and hung it up, and it has nothing to do with me. I was there the night you guys were recording those things. I remember you sitting in the studio. In fact, last week I had Rodney Mills as my guest. And, one of the things that was really interesting back in those days, you recorded Pac-Man Fever, and that whole album where Sweet Home Alabama was recorded, where Moonlight Feels Right was recorded by Bruce Blackman, where I Love the Nightlife was recorded, where all the Atlanta Rhythm section. I mean, that was was, as you said on Dick Clark, it was in a very electric time in Atlanta.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. Dick Clark. Yeah. We were pretty nervous that day. Yeah. And 38 Special was recording their album at the same time. Their album, which went, sold a zillion copies, had all those big hits on it. They were recording at night. We were recording in the daytime. And it was quite an interesting thing. Yeah. A lot of hits and come out of that studio, including Classics 4 hits, but the songs, all those big hit records and all that. So yeah, it was really neat working in Studio One.
Well, here's one of the questions is that, you have this amazing music history. And if you want to know more about Jerry's music, there's the web address. It's real easy. If you can remember, jerrybuckner.com. In fact, we were working on your site just the other day. You're getting that really ready to let people know that you're still making music. I mean, you don't say, I stopped making music. It's just part of our lives. And I do the same thing. I mean, I don't want to stop making music. I don't want to stop being around music. But as life went on, and the hit made you a good chunk of money, and then the way you maintain that money is you got to keep having hits. So that's why we got into Waffle House, because that was good money. It was corporate music is what we were doing.
Yeah.
And then of course, one of the things that you and I have been staying in touch with for 20 years now is using your talent and letting people know that you're available through the internet. And so let's talk about microphones. Like, for instance, I love the microphone. Talk about the microphone you're using to record yourself now.
Well, this is a Shure SM78 that I have here, and it's an incredible microphone. I love this. I've tried different microphones over the years, and they've all been good broadcast quality, but this one is just remarkable. I love this. It's for my voice. It works really well. It gives a nice tone. I have a little bit of a deeper voice, and it has a nice tone. And of course, I do a lot of voiceover, which we may talk about later. But it's a great microphone, and for the price, it's wonderful. So I recommend if you're doing any kind of work, this, you can do master recordings with this. I think Rodney Mills, who is one of the top engineers ever, said this. You and I were talking about that. What a great microphone. But I highly recommend it. If you don't want to spend a lot of money, there's always I had one of these. I should have brought it out. One of the
Yeti.
Yeah, the Yeti. It's a pretty good mic. It works pretty good, and it's I think about $100. I don't know.
Right.
It's a good mic to start with, especially if you're starting out doing voice work and so forth. But if you can afford it, this is the mic that I recommend.
And that's the Shure SM71 or something, 78.
78.
Yeah, Shure SM78. You just Google it. We usually buy our equipment. I buy my equipment at Sweetwater or Guitar Center. Those are great places to buy.
That's where I go now.
And then, of course, one of the things that you mastered, back when we were working in studios, 40 years ago, we weren't the engineers. We weren't the guys running the tape recorders or using the sound mixing boards or hooking up the microphones. You were a piano player, you were a keyboard player, Gary was a guitar player, you were songwriters, but the technical stuff was always left up to somebody else. And what happened when computers came along, I became an audio engineer to the best of my ability, as well as Danny did. And you used to come to our studio because we were the engineers, and you could come in with your ideas or whatever, and we could end up making a record.
Right.
And when I got out of the studio business, it became evident to me that if you owned a computer, I'd say 80-90% of the work we were doing in our studio back in those days, you could do with a microphone and your computer, which really brought about this internet. This was pre-internet audio days, but now internet audio is basically communication. It's content. And so, you had to learn how to hook up your microphone to your computer and record and edit and save your content as an MP3 file. So that's one of your experiences, is that you've got the ears for what sounds good from your old recording days, all the records you made and being around engineers. But tell us a little bit about, the software you started doing and the skill level you got before we're going to get to Fiverr here in a minute. But talk about, your learning curve. I mean, here you've been in studios all these years, and now all of a sudden we're at home studios with microphones. Tell our folks a little bit about that audience and that experience.
I probably should mention my voice work, because it all kind of comes together. I got into radio. Is something I always loved all my life. In fact, I wanted to get into radio to begin with back in my younger days, but I also love writing songs, and that won out, and I did that. But then after Pac-Man, we did a lot of stuff in the music business for a long time, had a lot of success, but I had a lot of radio friends too from over the years, and I loved comedy. I used to like working with comedy. So I got into a friend of mine started using me on his morning show, doing some comedy bits and so forth. That mushroomed into a whole other business for me, and I had to learn how to record myself at home so I could submit these demos, because it used to be if you wanted to, you'd have to go down and audition if you wanted to do a voice thing. You have to go downtown and audition with 100 other people, and the same people would always get it, and it was really a pain in the butt. And they had to book studio time and everything. Well, now the advertising people, everybody loves the idea that they don't have to do any of that. All they got to do is they see my site and they come to me, and I can do everything. and it's not, it's not that complicated. And so I had to you taught me on SoundForge
Mm-hmm.
how to do, that's where I started, which is SoundForge is basically just a stereo track for doing voice types. It's not a multi-track system, just a regular for voice.
It's a tape recorder, basically.
It's a tape recorder, exactly. And learn how to use that, and I could do my own demos. So people, agencies, and people love to come to voice talents who can do this stuff themselves because they don't have to pay all those recording fees. And so that gives you a heads up over everybody else that's still trying to do it the old way. And so that's how I got into doing studios. And then I also morphed into doing music by getting a multi-track. I use Mixcraft. I don't know what you recommend, Mike. And I need to say to everybody, this Mike Stewart, yeah, he's my close, dear friend, but he knows this industry frontwards and backwards. And I've told him I made more money with him than I have in Pac-Man Fever. He's taught me so much stuff. He's an amazing man. Just knowledge just pours out of him. So,
well, thank you.
But it's very true.
To answer, a DAW is a digital audio workstation. Basically, the ability to layer sounds. We used to call it multi-track recording. You'd have a track of a voice and a track of another voice, and that's how you made records. But most of the folks in the internet world here, they're podcasters where they want to be able to record and edit a show. They want to do an interview like you and I are doing right now. They want to be able to edit in sound effects and music. They basically want to make a radio show. And some of them want to do voiceovers for YouTube videos and online television commercials. So the principles that you and I learned as kids in these big studios in Atlanta, like Buddy Bowie and Rodney Mills Studio One and Lowry Studio, and then my own studio, we learned how to make professional sounding audio. And then the internet came along and basically, an iPhone is almost as good as the tape recorder. It's better than the tape recorders we had back in the day. A computer is anybody can own a studio now. That doesn't mean anybody has the ears and the talent to make good content. That's why, learning, and listening and training your ears is one of the things that's why you got work, is because, Jerry, you are talented. You know if it's right, if it's wrong, how to create a piece of audio content that is professional. And so therefore, okay, so you got Audio Studio. Just to let people know what I use as a multi-track. You still using Mixcraft, or have you graduated to the Acid program?
I have that too. I have them all. I guess I prefer the Mixcraft. Seems to work easier for me, but I've got the Acid program. I've got them all, and I use them for various purposes.
Right. Well, nobody at the bank says, "Did you edit that audio with XYZ program?" Because it's all about, if it works, don't worry about it. And of course, Charlie just said the model number. And we put up here. It's the SM78. Just that's a microphone that is really, really good. It's kind of becoming the podcaster voiceover choice microphone. And
it's hard to overdrive it. I mean, you can, but it's just so perfect, and it will really reproduce your voice. And that's so important. If you're going to get in voiceover work, the quality is so important. That's more important. That's one of the top things. I mean, agencies are not going to buy your product, not going to use you if you don't give them quality sound, including the software. There's a lot of rules that go with it.
Well, and one of the things that I want folks to know here is we just built this new website because Jerry is doing some different marketing, but his specialty is Southern Voices. So go to southernvoicesjerrybuckner.com, because one of the things I highly recommend for podcasters and people making what I call web commercials, or even television and radio commercials, Jerry is a professional talent, affordably priced. you can reach out to him there at southernvoicesjerrybuckner.com and, hire Jerry. He does an amazing job. He's a pro all the way, and he knows, years and years of experience. And even if you're doing a podcast, you want to have a professional voiceover intro, even if your voice is not that great. So anyway, just putting that out there. All right, well, you get to the this is a good question here from Charles. He says, how does one get a musical ear? I like that.
You're born with it. That's pretty much yeah. I mean, when I was a kid, and I'll try to make this a very short story. When I was about 8 years old, my dad was trying to take piano lessons. He was in a gospel group and had an old upright piano, and he was getting these mail-ins. Well, one day I sat down there with my mom. She was singing a little song, working in the kitchen, Sentimental Journey, I think. And I sat down and I just started picking it out on the piano. And she come in and she goes, "How can you do that?" I go, "I don't know. I thought everybody can do it." So when my dad came home, she said, "Come in here, do that, play that for him." And that's when they discovered that I had this ability to, and still can. I mean, I can hear a song, and Mike, from playing in clubs, it really helps a lot. You hear these things, and we can sit down and play them. I mean, work them out, and it's nothing I did. I mean, I had it. It just came with the package.
Well, one of the things that I do know is that if you know something is good, go back and forth between what you know is good and what you did, and try to train yourself to discern the difference. And there's just little things that you got to learn to listen for. You want to make sure that you're close to the microphone when you're doing voiceover. You want to make sure that you have some sort of, Jerry's got foam on his SM 78 that is a pop filter. I'm using a wire mesh pop filter. There's little things that you can do that everybody can learn. Producing music, that's a whole nother sometimes it's a God-given talent. Sometimes it's something that you just got to want it so bad that you work very, very hard to get that skill. But I think what I want to go to next is you discovered a way to get people to buy your services through Fiverr. Tell a little bit of that story.
Well, I was doing voice work, of course, from working in radio, doing morning shows and so forth. And then I started getting some people that asked me to do some commercials and everything. And I discovered very quickly that if I did a character voice, I would get more of a response and could get more work, because they seemed to like I had a Southern character that I can do, several of them I can do, and they like that. So I began to try to find ways to get more work. And there's sites called voices.com and voices123.com, and they're membership sites, and you pay a yearly fee for those. So I started working on those, and that I did okay on there, and it was fine. But I did a lot of free demos on there. I mean, you spend a lot of time because you submit them and they don't pay you. Well, I heard about Fiverr, and I thought, no, I'm not $5 for something. I mean, I don't want to do that. Well, I went and kind of looked and investigated it. So I thought, well, I want to try something. So I did. I went in and did an anonymous, put up an anonymous site, kind of a little bit of a joke, kind of a thing with a funny picture, and saying I was a regular talent, but I didn't want anyone to know, all that. Well, it caught on, and I started getting people coming to me. And what I found out is that there's extras on Fiverr that you can add to what you're doing, legitimate. It's not trying to pad it. License, people want to use your voiceover for a commercial, then they need to pay a licensing fee for that, which most people will do. And I found out that I could make better, or as good or better money than I would on the membership sites, and not have to do all the free demos. You don't do any free demos on Fiverr. So it's a great place to start. If you're brand new, well, then do one for $5 or $10 if you want, just to get started. Because once you build up, you start moving up the chart, moving up into the system to where people can see who you are. But there's a lot of tricks involved with Fiverr, but it's a great place to go. And yes, you can make money. I've made a lot of money on Fiverr, and I'm glad I discovered that.
Well, that's the lesson here, is that Fiverr can be it's not about doing things for $5. That's the thing I learned from you, is that you can, no matter what your skill is, you can have layers of profitability, and you're using the little $5 or $10. And in fact, I've actually seen some people on Fiverr that have nothing for $5, and I guess it's working.
That's very common. I mean, it's kind of, Fiverr's is huge. In fact, I think there was a Fiverr commercial.
They ran a Super Bowl commercial yesterday.
Yeah,
so they're doing okay. That was $5 million to run that commercial.
Yeah, they're doing okay, and they got a lot of different areas. But the voiceover thing works very well on there. I highly recommend them. And as I say, there's a few more tricks, but it's a great place to start if you want to get into doing voice work.
Well, I want to talk about this for a second, and we got a couple more things. And my gosh, the show's almost coming to an end here because we've been on for half an hour. But you're involved with Waffle House Records. In fact, one of the things here, you can search eBay, and Jerry has Waffle House Records. He's a seller there. You see Jerry Buck NE3. That's the seller information. And you got all kinds of crazy things that you're selling on
well, what
eBay.
happened, Mike, is I was looking for something else on eBay one day, and I saw that somebody had a couple of these records for sale for some pretty good prices. And I thought, well, that's pretty wild, because I had a bunch, when we used to do all the waffle stuff back in the day, they would give, I would get a box or two of records. I'm not even sure why. I guess it's, producing it and get records. So I had a bunch of records hanging around here that I probably was going to throw away, And when I saw that on there, I thought, well, people are collecting them. They become kind of collector's items, and people have jukeboxes and they want to put the songs on it. So I put a few of my records up, and they just, right out the door. So I was able to secure a lot more of these from the warehouse that nobody cares about them. And, I do. And so we put them up on eBay, and it's great. People love them, and they, as I say, they're collector's items, and they put them on jukeboxes.
Well, I just wanted you to know that you need to check them out. They're a lot of fun. If you have a Waffle House restaurant in your area, you can go to the digital jukeboxes. All the records, all the way back to 1980. The very first one we ever did, and then you and Danny did them for many, many years afterwards. So I don't know how many songs are on there anymore, but you can check out Waffle House Records. But now what we're going to talk about, and we're going to wind it up here with, is this was the party that brought you on, is BucknerGarcia.com. And I remember you and I and Gary were doing jingles at my house.
Yep.
For local, I'll never forget. We had a local restaurant. Joe Rigatoni's was one.
Eat
Joe's, and we did all kinds of different jingles. And we would do the demos at my home studio, and then we go to a real studio to cut the final product. And that's how we were playing music at night and making jingles during the day. And you guys started playing Pac-Man at near that studio. I think it was wasn't the Marietta.
It was called Shillings on the Square up in Marietta, Georgia.
And these new video game arcade games were tabletop. Was that a tabletop game, or was it an arcade?
Yeah, it was a tabletop. Sitting in the middle of the room, plugged in. They had a plug in the floor there, sitting there, and we went in to get a bite to eat in between working at a local studio, and saw all these people. So we started playing it and got hooked. And spent more time in there than working in the studio. And so we thought, maybe let's do a little song, because we were songwriters, as you are, Mike. As we've always been, and we would try. We were trying to get hit songs, but commercials was how we were making a living. So we thought, well, let's do this song, and maybe we'll get a little bit of work from commercials. And that was the idea behind doing it. We never dreamed that it would do what it did, but that was the idea behind it.
Well, the gaming community just still loves this record. I mean, it's amazing the people you've met over the years as a result of this record. The song has been used in Family Guy, The Simpsons, The Goldbergs,
South Park. been in the Rose Bowl parade. I mean, it's been everywhere.
And one of the things I think that'll be a lot of fun is that we're going to help Jerry get JerryBuckner.live set up, and because I think the gaming world just loves hearing about Pac-Man, and so that'll be a fun show. Hopefully that you can get launching pretty soon. But I'll tell you what, the way we're going to end the show is we're going to play you and I and the remaining members of the studio band made a video this past May. We found some old footage of me and you and Gary and the original drummer, Jenny, and we actually, Chris Bowman, the guitar player from the album, we play. The only time that I know of that there's ever a video of us playing Pac-Man Fever live.
That's right.
Was at Chris's wedding, and we took that footage and we made a video and we did a live stream on it, and we started getting some momentum. And then, of course, this year has been one crazy news event after another, and the world didn't seem to have much interest in Pac-Man after the craziness of last year. So we're going to play it right now to end the show with, and maybe have some closing comments to see if there's some questions. But Jerry, thank you for sharing your stories. And will you come back if we sometime and do another show in the future?
Oh, I would, Mike. Can't get rid of it easy.
Well, let's listen to a little Pac-Man Fever. That'll be fun to close out the show here.
I got a pocket full of quarters and I'm headed to the arcade. I don't have a lot of money, but I'm bringing everything I made. I got a callus on my finger and my shoulder's hurting too. I'm gonna eat them all up just as soon as they turn blue. 'Cause I got Pac-Man fever. It's driving me crazy. I got Pac-Man fever. I'm going out of my mind. I got Pac-Man fever. I'm going out of my mind. I got all the patterns down up until the ninth key. I got Speedy on my tail and I know it's either him or me. So I'm heading out the back door and in the other side. Gonna eat the cherries up and take them all for a ride. I got Pac-Man fever. It's driving me crazy. I got Pac-Man fever. I'm going out of my mind. I got Pac-Man fever. I'm going out of my mind. I'm gonna fake to the left and move to the right. 'Cause Punky's too slow and Blinky's out of sight. Now I've got 'em on the run and I'm looking for the high score. So it's once around the block and I slide back out the side door. I'm really cooking now, eating everything inside. All my money's gone, so I'll be back tomorrow night. 'Cause I got Pac-Man fever. It's driving me crazy. I got Pac-Man fever. I'm going out of my mind. I got Pac-Man fever.
fun to watch. I'd like to mention too, David Cole at the very end, the wild crazy guy in drums. David has a great band, Band X. Just if anybody, if you want to go hear a great band or hire a great band, bandx.com. They're terrific.
Well, there were so many. Those guys are so talented, and I'm
Rick
so
Hinkle,
grateful.
one of the best guitar players ever.
Rick, is amazing. And, one of the little things about Rick Hinkle that we never dreamed one day would happen when it comes to the internet, his wife is Siri.
That's right, Siri. That's right.
So as Dave Letterman used to say, brushes with greatness. Well, if nobody has any questions, Jerry, once again, this was a lot of fun, a lot of things that brought back wonderful, happy memories. I'm glad that you and I are still good friends, and brother, I'd do anything to help you. You just ask, and you know that. And folks, reach out, go to jerrybuckner.com, check out bucknergarcia.com, check out, the Kindle book back here behind me. That's one of the things that I'm a firm believer in. It's maybe the music industry hasn't really completely accepted it, but our fans that like Pac-Man Fever are loving it, and we're just going to keep doing the things we do. And to quote my good buddy Jeff Herring, he says, "That was cool." So sometimes you don't have to teach something. Sometimes you can just have fun being cool. Jerry, any last words before? Here's Vicky says, "Thank you, Vicky. Glad you're here." And so we had a good audience today. One of the things about these live streams is a lot of people see it after the fact. It becomes immediately posted in social media, and so you can always rewind it and watch it again. Visit Jerry's website. Jerry, anything you want to say before we head on out of here?
Just thanks to all the fans and all the folks who support us over the years, and love to meet you and get check us out at jerrybuckner.com, and a kiss to my partner Gary Garcia, and Mike Stewart, my close dear friend, who's done so much for me, and just a tremendous talent. You need to check him out in all these areas, because you're going to make money and you're going to learn stuff. So anytime I can be on the show, love to, Mike. Love to.
Well, Charlie says fun stuff. And with that, everybody have a great day, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks with the next Mike Stewart Live.